Here's the thing. I wasn't always this person that you guys see today that is living a wealthy life, living an abundant lifestyle, and doing cool shit, and making a ton of money. In fact, I actually grew up on a farm. I came from a place of not very much. My family, I saw them struggle. I saw them trying to become business owners, lose everything. And it got to the point where we didn't have much to us other than our family. Flash forward a bunch of years, and now my businesses do a combined total run rate of over $3 million a year. And I'm on a trajectory to be able to hit $10 million a year. And that is because I understood the concepts of what I'm going to be talking about inside of this video. So if you give me a second, I'm going to unpack everything that kind of led up to me discovering these rules of wealth that changed my life, but also how you can apply them to your life effectively. So this video, go grab some popcorn. We're going to enjoy some time together. So that way you can apply this to your life and actually understand deep down why these things work so well and how you can apply it to your life from personal experience, not just because this was read in some book and I'm just sharing the information, but because these are things that I actually had to experience and go through in my life to get to the place that I live in now. Because you see, it wasn't always supercars and $15 lattes and traveling the world. For me, I grew up in a town that didn't really have that much going for it. It was a very middle class town. And I saw my parents try to work their way up the ladder. And then it came to 2007, 2008, the recession, and I saw them lose everything. And we had to go move on to a farm town. If I show you guys the picture real quick of the place I lived, we lived in a trailer. And what you can see right next to the picture of that house is actually land with a bunch of cows next to it. That is where I spent a lot of my crucial growing years. And I remember seeing my parents go through all this. I remember seeing the promises that they had, this big, huge dream and vision that they had, and then also them working really hard to get close and have to start all over again and having to go for the safe life and security. And I realized that I never wanted to have that life for myself or my children or my future family. And let alone, I don't want my parents to ever have to even consider thinking that that is a remote reality ever again. And same with my siblings and anybody that ever gets close to my life. So I had to learn how to become wealthy basically from the ground up and have to learn everything myself. These are the 6 rules of wealth that changed my life. The first one I have for my first rule of wealth is that it takes the same amount of work to make $100,000 a year as it does to make $100 million. Now, here's the thing. What it really comes down to when you're trying to make $100,000 a year is for you to be somebody that is working at a pretty decently paying job and to have the skill sets that the market is willing to pay for. Versus when you're building something that is worth $100 million, $100 million comes from having people that have the skill sets that are effective in the marketplace and just finding the right opportunity at the right time and hopping into it. And so a lot of the people that I see making $100 million a year, yes, they work hard, but it's not like they have more hours in the day than the average person does. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. And so how you're spending and using those 24 hours in the day is the bigger picture. And this is one that I actually got from Grant Cardone, that if you have bigger goals, it takes just as much work. It takes just as much work to be poor as it does to be rich. When you're rich, you have rich people problems. When you're poor, you have poor people problems. The big thing is I would always rather choose to have rich people problems than to have poor people problems. They're still problems at the end of the day. It's just the type of problems that you have and the problems that I choose to have. And I allow myself to believe that I would rather face the problems that it comes to becoming rich than it does to becoming poor. And that is a choice. Whether you allow yourself to realize it or not, it is ultimately a choice as to what you allow for yourself to do. Because you have to understand this. The reason that you are not worth millions of dollars is not because of opportunity. We all, at this point, with the internet, have a level playing field. I used to be the same exact way. I thought that the only way to becoming wealthy was to get lucky, was to be at the right place. You had to go to Harvard like Mark Zuckerberg and be at the right time in the right place and, have the right friends and be some crazy lunatic in order to become successful. Or you had to just basically get a really good get a degree, get a really high paying job, and then work your way up the corporate ladder. And then after 30, 40 years, then you can retire with, your millions of dollars. But after you've provided so much value over the market over so many years. But they don't really tell you about the other method, or the system doesn't teach you about the method of how people are actually becoming rich in the new economy. All it takes is for a company to go under and the complete direction of your life is lost. And so as soon as you allow yourself to believe that you can be worth $10 million, the sooner that you can start seeing the world of opportunity and start seeing the avenues that are in front of you. Now, these are big numbers. Let's start with something as simple as, let's say, like $20,000 a month. I think that's a little bit more reasonable, making $20,000 a month. I think that's something that most people can generally visualize. And so if you start allowing yourself to be like, yeah, I can make $10,000 a month, there's X, Y, and Z that have shown that this is possible without any sort of luck. It's more so just working really hard and having the right opportunities. And as soon as you allow yourself to start seeing the world that way, you'll start seeing the opportunities in these little kind of like gaps in the market where you can jump in, or inefficiencies in the market based off of other people that have done a similar kind of pathway. You can see how you can jump into it. And so here's the thing is, just allow yourself to dream bigger. Take whatever goal you have now. If you want to make $10,000 a month, just start thinking, how can I make $100,000 a month? And when you just start thinking about things through that lens, you start to notice other opportunities. It's like the 10x rule for Grant Cardone. Start thinking 10x, and the opportunities that you will start seeing will be 10x opportunities. You just have to be in the same reality as those 10x opportunities that are always running simultaneously at the same time in the same thread that $10,000 a month opportunities are happening. So the way that you can think of this is, right now, at this exact moment, there are people in countries that have, that are barely able to afford food and are struggling to find water every single day. Crazy, right? But at the same time, at the same exact time, there are people living in so much abundance that money isn't an object for them. They're thinking about which car that they want to drive that day, where they want to be in the world, and what ultimately are they feeling that day? What restaurant do they want to go to? Ordering everything on the menu, eating none of it because they're actually not that hungry. All at the same time, simultaneously, while there are people struggling in the world. At any given moment in the human experience, there is that happening. And so, while these are both happening simultaneously, there are opportunities and problems of people that are struggling and, that are trying to figure out how to afford food and water and trying to figure that out. And then there's also people that are just, they have $100 million opportunities passing their plate every single day. And so as soon as you start realizing that you might be born into poverty, but dying poor is a choice, you get to choose. In your life, there will be at least maybe 10, maybe 20 opportunities where you can take advantage of it. You just have to be ready to see those opportunities that will allow you to move to different realities in this world that we live in. So ultimately, for the first rule of wealth is, it takes the same amount of work as to make $100,000 a year as it does $100 million a year. All it takes is for you to start looking for those opportunities. Start that today. Start looking for, asking yourself, how do people make $100,000 a month? And start looking for those people that are making $100,000 a month. What you'll realize is there's a lot of people doing that. There's over 500,000 people in this world that have a ultra wealthy net worth, which is over $30 million. There's 500,000 people. I want you to visualize that. That'd be 10 Super Bowls happening all at the same time, quantity of people. 500,000 people are worth over $30 million. Just think about it. And so for you to be one of them isn't really that crazy. Okay, so now that brings me to my second point as far as one of the rules of wealth that changed my life. And I don't know exactly who I've gotten this from. I know I've heard it from Andrew Tate. I know I've heard it from a few different people manifested a few different ways. But I just really love the phrasing of this, is that you're not Rambo. Or you can be Rambo if you want, but why do you want to be Rambo? Rambo seems like the craziest, just gung ho, like trying to survive on your own mindset. And that just sounds like a lot of work and a lot of stress and a lot of just things that you don't need, the pressure that you don't need to have. And so the thing is you can go be Rambo if you want in business and try to conquer all these things by yourself. Or on the flip side, you can be like, let's say SEAL Team 6 or one of those movies where there's a team of people trying to win the war or whatever it may be. And so instead of trying to do everything on your own, instead look for people that are on a similar journey and a similar mission as you and make friends with those people and bounce ideas off of them. What I found is when you make a mistake, go find other people that are in a similar industry and share this mistake and this lesson that you learned. And as soon as you start doing that, they're going to start doing the same exact thing to you. They're going to share a mistake that they made and then a lesson that they learned, and they're going to give it back to you. And what happens is you start creating an echo chamber of results or of growth and of feedback and lessons that you were consistently learning. And so you want to make friends in this industry. Instead of trying to figure out everything on your own, which you totally can try to become Rambo, instead try to start making friends and start bringing people on your journey and on your adventure and being very ruthless as far as like where you are going on the long term, which will be a point in one of the future points. But as of right now, make friends. You don't need to do this on your own. And then on top of that, work with other people. Get good at working with other people because people are going to be one of the biggest leverages that you have. People build businesses. People are the groundwork and the inner workings of income generation and wealth generation from as far as time goes back. And so leverage what has already been working and apply it to the current world. There are always other people on this journey. There are millions of people on this journey of trying to build wealth. Go find those people and become friends with them. Some of them will become wealthy. Maybe some of them fail and don't get that rich, but some of them will. And when you're friends with people that are all trying to do something with their lives, they will bring you along this journey with them and you get to become rich with them. Or vice versa, if you become rich, you'll bring other people on the journey. Other people will be like, oh, I know that person. And since there's so many people familiar with you and, you know, they're a part of the early stages, those are your biggest supporters. And those are the people that are going to cheer you on and also send other people that are successful on your way as well. And so here's the thing. Quit trying to be Rambo. You know, try to touch with as many people, as in like make friends with as many people out there as possible and have touch points with them. And over time, these people will be rooting you on, sharing you with other people that they know. And then also some of these people will become successful and you'll already be friends with them before they're successful and all these people want something from them. The worst thing about becoming successful is all of a sudden all these people want something from you that weren't there in the first place. And not to say that you can't like, you know, make new friends and connect with these people as you connect with new people after you start to reach higher and higher rungs of success. But the best is when you have people that were there for you when were there for you that were there when you were at all-time lows. And those people were friends with you then, and they're friends with you now. And these are people that you can kind of start to trust. I'm not saying they always end up that way, but you want to start making friends with people on the come up. So that way, when they're successful, you're already friends with them and vice versa. You want to make friends while you're on the come up because the worst thing that could happen is you become successful. You go Rambo all this, and then you have no social life because you can't trust anybody because you never had anybody that you connected with in the beginning and you didn't really start that social life until you're rich. And the worst thing that can happen is trying to have a social life when you're rich versus when, you know, you didn't have any money and you already understood a good social life. Because what you start to see is a bunch of just rich losers that are making a ton of money and they have nobody to share it with. And so that is my biggest fear is I just make a ton of money and I have nobody to share this life with. And so instead of trying to be Rambo, make friends along the journey, connect with different people that are on the same mission as you, and you will be blessed as soon as you start making a ton of money or they start making a ton of money, it will come full circle. So instead of trying to be Rambo, make friends, do this with other people. That'll be the best idea for your future success. So the next one on my list here is you are the average of the 5 people you spend your time with. And so this plays into the last point a little bit, but you want to take a good look around of who is all around you. This is something I talk very familiar with on my channel, but let me tell you a story. So when I was getting started into business, I was kind of a loser, honestly. As in social circles, I couldn't really relate to anybody. All I ever wanted to talk about was business. And so I had 2 options. Either I could look cool amongst a crowd of people by talking about a bunch of stuff that I didn't care about, or this is what I chose to do, is I chose to become somebody that just had a bunch of friends that weren't in real life, but were more so internet friends and connected with a bunch of people that were more so online and isolated myself from the people that were in my vicinity because I knew that if I spent time with the people that I was around, then I would just, you know, want to go to college parties and not do a whole lot with my life. Versus the inverse side of it was if I just tried to become cool amongst my friend group online, it involved me making a ton of money or getting a lot of results or a lot of views on YouTube in order for me to be cool amongst this circle. And so your circle is one of the most important things for you and your success. Once I planted a lot of these seeds with a lot of people that were doing something with their life, as soon as they started having success, I was elevated amongst with them. It's the same thing as, like, if you're surrounded by a bunch of people that are not doing anything with their life, the likelihood of you doing nothing with your life is 100%. Versus if you're surrounded by a bunch of people that are millionaires and traveling the world and driving supercars and doing cool stuff, you're going to be one of those people as well. So find people that have a similar vision, start making friends with them, start trying to talk to people that are living the life that you want to live. They may not reply to you right away, but if you talk to them as if they're a friend and somebody that you have a personal connection with, the likelihood of you making good connections with them and understanding their lifestyle will be very high, and you can start connecting with a lot of those people, which is very important in this pathway of success. So the fourth point on here, as far as the rules of wealth that changed my life, be patient in the short term, but ruthless on the long-term North Star of where you're heading. So I think many people get this very twisted when they get into building businesses or, making money and having success is people are too much reliant on what the short-term success is. And if it's not anything spectacular, like making $10,000 a month in the second month, then they take it as a big failure and as a big loss. Instead of tying your worth, your self-worth to you hitting revenue goals, instead tie your self-worth to hitting milestones in the journey that naturally when you hit certain milestones and you do things for a certain amount of time, you know for a fact that money will come. And so for me, I always tie my personal happiness or like, my self-worth to the progress that I make on things instead of the financial outcome of the things that I do. Because money is the most lagging indicator out of everything. Money is always the thing that comes last by far compared to any other achievement that you can reach. And so as soon as you start tying your kind of like self-worth to how much money you're making, you're setting yourself up for failure. And so what you need to do instead is ask yourself, what are these things that like where are we going in the big long-term things, also known as your North Star? Where is this thing that you're heading towards? Who is the person that you're trying to become? What is the objective? What is the goal? And if you never thought about where you want to be 5, 10 years from now, start thinking about that. Go take a 2-hour shower and just start thinking, what the hell do you actually want in this life? And if you don't really know, just make a guess as big as you possibly can and probably think a little bit bigger from wherever you can think. Now that you have that, then you want to ask yourself, what are some of these milestones that you need to accomplish in order to achieve that overall bigger vision? And instead of attaching yourself to, okay, your overall bigger vision requires you to make $1 million a month, instead of measuring $1 million a month and your progress is based off of how much closer towards that $1 million a month you're making, instead ask yourself, what are kind of the stages that elevate you towards that goal? And as you start elevating, like, and as you start working towards these things that elevate you towards that goal, naturally the money will have to come. Naturally, it'll have to work out. And so I always tell this to myself. I am worth $100 million. I just haven't been paid yet. I just haven't been sent the check and I haven't deposited the check for $100 million, but I'm worth that. It's just time hasn't caught up. And so I'm always asking myself, what are these next little kind of goals that I have to hit in order to achieve that? So for me, it's like certain key hires. It's certain benchmarks when it comes to the quantity of people that I have or like subscribers or the quantity of videos that are put out or the quantity of interviews that I do. Whatever it may be, you want to ask yourself, what are these metrics that will get you towards that goal and track those things ruthlessly and work towards those things every day because those are controllable. Finances isn't really controllable. It kind of is, but at the same time, it is one of the most lagging indicators of every other thing that you set up and build. So set up, instead of like, if you're building a YouTube channel to get to $50,000 a month, instead of, oh, I make $0 today, I'm very far away from my goal. Instead, ask yourself, did you set up your YouTube channel? Okay, first step. Second, did you name it and build a logo? Okay, cool. Now, did you come up with your video ideas? Okay, cool. That's a win. Now, after you came up with your video ideas, okay, cool. Now you made your first video. Huge win. Now that you made 5 videos, another big win. You got your first 10 videos, another win. Okay, you got monetized now. You're not making $50,000 a month. You just got monetized. Now you made your first dollar online. That's an incredible win. That is something worth celebrating. That shows you that it's possible. That shows you that you're starting to get paid. It's a proof of concept. That shows you that if you keep this up for the next 2 years, the next 3 years, there's no reason you can't be making $50,000 a month. And so you need to set these small little benchmarks. I see sometimes when I work with people that they reach like $500 in the first month, which is crazy. It took me over a year and a half to do that. In a month, they make $500. Yet they're very disappointed because they're not making $50,000 a month yet. If you think about it, that is bananas. you know for a fact in the next 2 to 3 years, if you keep it on that trajectory, you can keep crushing it. Instead, when I got started, I would reach those goals, let's say I start making $100 a month, and I would let it affect me for months that I wasn't reaching that goal. And those months that could have been focused on productively going in and doing more work, instead I was, laying in bed being depressed and emotionless, and I would just scroll on social media for weeks at a time until I realized enough was enough and I needed to go and do more work. But I would make these benchmarks or these milestones because of how far they seemingly felt. I would let them impact me so heavily that it was so difficult for me to even like put in like an hour of work because I was so emotionally bogged down by the fact that like I just kept seeing this North Star that was insanely far away from me. And it was a very depressing. There was a very long period of time where I wouldn't leave my apartment for multiple weeks because I was just so annoyed at myself that I wasn't reaching said financial goals. And my health declined because of it. And my relationships declined because of it. And as soon as I just started realizing that as long as I'm just making progress on a regular basis, you don't need money to be happy. As long as you can like make constant progress every single day, as long as you can see the progress and see the muscles growing as you keep constantly going to the gym, that is way more far important than it is to reach these big, huge milestones very regularly. And if you do reach these big milestones pretty quickly, it actually can be even more detrimental to your health mentally than if it takes you a lot longer and you actually work really hard to achieve them. Because if you just get undeserving results, a lot of times we push that money away from us. A lot of times if we start making too much money too quickly, it can create an environment to where you don't feel like you deserve the money that you're making and you start just spending money on stupid stuff. And as soon as you start spending money on stupid stuff, you're pushing the money away from you and treating it disrespectfully in a way that makes it harder for you to make as much money as you're making. And the universe will do its thing and you will feel the wrath that comes with not treating money the way that it needs to be treated because you didn't actually deserve it. So instead of wishing for fast, short term success, ask yourself for long, excruciating, painful growth over the long term towards big, huge goals that are actually worth it. Because as soon as you start achieving these short term, like fast goals and you start hitting like short term highs, you're going to always be constantly looking for the next dopamine hit. And when you start looking for the next dopamine hit, and I say this directly looking at the camera, it's not worth it. And with the long-term painful growth comes long-term positive success that you're going to be so grateful for and so appreciative of instead of if you were just handed on a golden spoon some special result very quickly. And you may see some people that are having those fast results, but if you watch them over the long term, you're going to see them mentally become deteriorated unless they grew up with wealth and they know what to do with money. But if you see people come up very quickly, you'll see that in the long term, they're not really that happy. I've been around in this business I've been around for a pretty long time. And very often I see people that reach very fast, quick success. And I also see very fast falling. I see very fast whirlwind of pain and suffering that comes from this fast, expedited growth. And so ask for the stories, ask for the experience, ask for things to be hard, and you will receive amazing, tremendous results. So be patient in the short term, but ruthless on the long term North Star. So that brings me over to my fifth point. Wealth comes from ownership. There's this clip from Mark Cuban where he talks about how he would rather be making no money and have full ownership of what he's doing than being paid a very cushy salary.
I would rather work 80 hours a week to make $50K and work for myself than have a $75,000, $100,000 job working for somebody else.
Here's the thing, is I don't think everybody should be a business owner. I don't think that everybody should necessarily be this person that is being a startup founder or a CEO in this world. I think there's different strengths for different people. But what you need to hunt for aggressively is ownership in the things that you are building. And so that comes in the form of like getting some sort of equity ownership of the companies that you're working for. So finding startups and figuring out how you can inject yourself either into partial ownership of the company, or if you're working somewhere, do it for the experience and who you can become on the other side of working for a company that is growing, etc. So either do it for the skill sets that you develop and the knowledge that you develop and the experience that you're getting, or do the things that you're doing for the ownership of the business or the company or the asset that is being built. Because if you're just working a job, let's say as a McDonald's employee and you're getting paid $10 an hour, you could go work 60, 70, $80 an hour, and you're not going to increase your wealth by doing that. You will get paid more, yes, but as soon as you stop working, you stop making money. And so you need to find things that create wealth over purely just income. And so if you do have a really good income, then you need to start putting that money into things that start developing wealth. And whether it be like acquiring new skill sets, growing yourself as a person, and start acquiring more and more assets as you are making really good money. Or on the vice versa, is look for opportunities that maybe aren't necessarily the highest paying, but things that will help grow you as a person and also help put you into a position where maybe you can have some ownership of the thing that you're working for and maybe getting some sort of like revenue share or some sort of equity in the company that you're building if you work there over the long grand scheme of things and you help work towards the vision. If you are a part of successful CEOs that are building from the ground up, especially in their earlier years, the amount of experience that you're going to get out of something like that is incredible. That's not something that I've done personally, but I've had a lot of friends that have gone that route, and it's turned out where now they make $10 million a year with their business because they saw somebody else do that after working with them for 5, 6, 7 years. And then now, once they had all that experience, they go and apply it for their own thing and they become successful. You see far often that a lot of people that were early stages of working for a company like Facebook or Apple or Google, they go and start their own software company or their own business, and they're making 50 million, $100 million after having that experience and then applying it to their own vision or their own business or their own thing in the future. So you need to always seek how you can either grow yourself as a person to become a higher value person, or how you can own the things that you are doing, because otherwise then you're going to always be constantly on this hamster wheel and you're never going to be able to get off. And when you do want to get off, it's going to be very painful and it's going to be very difficult. And so those of you that have maybe been riding the hamster wheel for a pretty long time, you know, it's you're gonna realize as you start to wait longer and longer and longer to develop these skill sets and to like really put yourself into a position of ownership, it's going to require a larger amount of energy to be able to jump, because the comfort starts to become, as soon as you start having kids, and then as soon as you start kind of, getting yourself locked into a career for 20 years, it becomes insanely difficult. When I talk with these people, I've noticed to quit off of that wheel. Now, I always recommend maybe setting aside, let's say, like, 3 to 6 months worth of money, so then you can be able to go and do your own thing. But the longer that you wait to move towards a world of ownership, the longer it's going to take for you to become wealthy, or to even possibly become wealthy at all. Becoming wealthy comes from risk and taking risks. And obviously, you can take calculated bets. It's not like going to a casino and the odds are stacked against you at all times. In business, you can make very calculated bets that are stacked in your favor. And that is why building a business is one of the best things that you could possibly do, or working for a company that has a growth mindset and a growth trajectory and big, audacious goals. And so, if you're trying to become wealthy, look for ways that you can become more valuable in the marketplace, or you can own the things that you are doing, because the upside is limitless. The upside of working an hourly wage at McDonald's is maybe you can work your way up the ladder and get to where you're making $200,000 a year salary or something, becoming like, more of a corporate job there. Or on the flip side of it, when you business or you work with startups and stuff, the upside is infinite in those games. And so play the infinite game over the game that has a very plateaued, limited risk if you do want to become wealthy. So last but not least is invest in knowledge, not stocks. Stocks are something that grow on average. I think the S&P 500 has grown on average of, like, let's say 8% over the last 20 or 30 years, versus if you invest into your knowledge and you become a more highly skill setted person, you are able to become worth more and you are able to provide more value to the marketplace. So for me, if I ever have some money that I have left over from a month, from a profitable month, I always look to put that money into how can I grow myself. Either I do it through experiences like traveling to new places, or I do it through finding mentors that have done what I'm trying to do and hiring them, or I even do it in upgrading my lifestyle. So then that way I feel like I am somebody that's accomplished things, and giving myself trophies of in business. The trophies in business are watches and cars and bigger houses, which that can become a hedonistic trap eventually. But for the longest time, it was just upgrading my life ever so slightly, just getting better gym memberships, making things more convenient, and paying for a lot for convenience, and taking care of my health and taking care of, the people that are around me. And so Invest in knowledge, not stocks. Knowledge is something that no government can take away from you. No person can steal from you. Knowledge is something that you are able to retain no matter what happens in this world. We live in a very crazy world at this point in time, and as history tells, there's always transitions that happen, and there's always, destructions of societies, and there are big huge things that are always constantly happening that are out of the individual's control. But the one way that you can control what's going on in your own individual life is by growing who you are as a person. And investing into your knowledge is something that nobody can take away from you. A company can go bankrupt. A company like stock market can go down 30%. But one thing that doesn't change is who you are as a person, but you can only grow as a person. You can't become less of a person and learn less things. You can grow your knowledge. And so the more that you spend your time of consuming more and attaining more knowledge, the more valuable you become as a person in this world. And the more valuable you are and the more money that you can possibly make. Even if everything goes wrong, you can switch over to some other currency and make a ton of money. And so always think, how can I grow myself and myself as a person and become somebody that is worthy of making $10 million a year, that has a mindset of $100 million, instead of how can I invest money so then that way in 50 years I can have, however much money in the stock market. The goal isn't to make $3 to $5 million over the next 40 years. Instead, the goal is how can you become wealthier and richer than your wildest dreams? Because you want to escape this world that we live in and escaping the matrix of the normal society that people play. Wealthy people do things that are wealthy. They don't have to follow the rules. They do the things that they want to do. And this video is about becoming wealthy. Wealthy people don't follow the rules. They break all the rules and do the things that wealthy people do, which is being able to become detached from society and to be unchained from the world that we live in. So the way we do it is by investing in ourselves, growing ourselves as people, and becoming more knowledgeable. And so that's what I have inside of this video. Those are my 6 rules of wealth that changed my life. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe. Also, drop a comment. We're doing a giveaway in the comments down below. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.